Hi, I'm Pete. I'm an alcoholic. I've experienced with these steps with a couple sponsors, a loving higher power. I have some financial amends that I'm not quite prepared to make. And then most of my other amends that I'm working on are the hardest for me. Did some living amends towards myself. So, yeah, step two. I always, first of all, I'm not going to read anything. I'm just going to go with it, let God direct me. And then there's so much in this chapter. I'm like, man, I wish I read something. I wish I read over this. But anyway, so I'll give you a little bit about my background. I was adopted into an alcoholic home of 10. 6 of us were adopted. My birth mother was schizophrenic, so I was given up at birth. Like we know, alcoholism is a mental illness, schizophrenia is a mental illness. It's family. I have lots of mental illness in my family, lots of addiction. So, it says in here, and there's just too much for me to look, but I'll kind of generalize it, about, the thinking being the problem. And, for me, it just popped in my head that, I was sick way before I ever picked up a drink. I had this thinking problem before I ever picked up a drink. I was this really sensitive kid, nice kid, wanted everybody to be okay. And I'm in this chaotic alcoholic home with my siblings coming in and out of abusive alcoholic homes. It was just chaos. And I really deeply cared for my siblings and felt their pain. And I took on all their pain, and I always wanted to fix them. And that was really, really unmanageable. So, I have all this thinking. My head is constantly worry, fear for others. How can I help others? I'm powerless. I can't. I don't realize that. But I'm taking all this stuff on. I get to an age, early on in my life, I think about suicide a lot. I had some addictive behaviors before, like suffocate myself until I passed out, just to get relief from that. If I got a cut, I would run in and pour rubbing alcohol on it. It gave me like a little buzz, like I knew where the pain was coming from. Because I just had so much pain that I was taking on and had no ability to process, wasn't being taught those tools, how to process all this stuff. So it goes on like that for a long time. I'm quiet. Just like the book says, I excel at a lot of stuff because, I'm this little kid who's been given up. I know too much, too. I understand too much, like that I shouldn't. Some things went around my house when I was really young: divorce, money problems, sexual abuse, and it was all concepts I was too young to understand, yet I understood them. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm carrying all this stuff, and eventually I get to a place. I asked for help at one point. I said, I think there's something really wrong with me in my head, and it's that old school family, Irish Catholic, what goes on here stays here, you don't ask for help. And I was told there's nothing wrong with you. And at that point, I kind of consciously decided I have to do whatever I have to do to survive this. And shortly after that, I found alcohol and drugs. I remember I was around it. I was 12, I was 9 or 10, so I was exposed to this stuff, and I was thinking about it, but I had this, I wanted to be the good kid, and that's where I was going with that. So I could excel at these things, and then I go back to my parents, give me recognition, and they just didn't have the ability, or they were just working to support 10 of us. So, I started looking for that. It's a natural thing. It's a natural thing to want that as a child, and when you don't get it and you happen to be an alcoholic, that's what you carry. That's what I carry, into my life, which today is pretty troubling, but I'm working on it. So, yeah, I find alcohol and drugs, and I feel okay for the first time. The first time I picked up alcohol, I was down the Cape. My mother didn't come to the Cape. She stayed back and worked. My father, who was an alcoholic, brought us down there. All my older siblings brought their friends. They all partied. I was 12. They let me play asshole. I had probably 4 or 5 beers and was fine. They kicked me out, and I went immediately to the kitchen, found a bottle of vodka, and just I wanted more relief. It's the first time I've ever experienced relief. And that phenomenon of craving already kicked in. I remember obsessing from that point. I was so sick. Obsessing in school, like, when am I going to get this opportunity again? I forgot that mental blank spot. I forgot how sick I was. And all I can remember is the relief that I got. And I call it the black hole because that mental blank spot in my mind eats the good stuff too. It helps me, it makes me forget the positive things that I'm doing for myself and my recovery. That's how insidious this disease is for me. Like, it'll eat the good stuff too, and it'll make me focus on, like, the one thing I'm doing wrong. So it's a tricky disease. And so I find that relief. And for me, I already had this obsessional mind, maybe through the mental illness in my family. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little sicker than most, maybe a lot. I'm obsessing about this stuff. And so the progression for me was really, really fast. Alcohol, I had that reaction different from other people where all those emotions, I had so many emotions, all that stuff I took on as a kid would come pouring out of me when I drank because I couldn't control the amount that I drank. And then I'd become like, I'd go from this sweet kid who wanted to do the right things to this like violent, like spit, blood-covered mess, like beating the shit out of somebody twice my size because I blacked out in anger. And I don't feel anything when I get to that point. It's insane, and it was scary. So the control that I assumed from alcohol, that I thought I assumed, went away really quickly, and then the progression led to other stuff that I felt I could manage more. But the other stuff brought me to towards that going insane, the insanity, the suicidal stuff, the paranoia. It brought me to my knees quick. I basically had an okay time from 12 to 19, and then some hard drugs brought me to a really, really dark and scary place where I stayed until I was 31 years old because I knew no other way. And that's like what this chapter is about for me. Like, I'm completely hopeless. It didn't matter all those like bloody fights, like crying, all these emotional outpours. None of that stuff mattered. I saw the way my friends drank and that they were having fun. And I remembered, at one point it was fun. And that's the insanity for me. Like, I wanted to fix it. I was hell-bent on, like, making it go back to that. Like, I was gonna do that myself. I was gonna make it go back. And I get hell-bent on, like, redeeming myself, too. And so I know this is a different step, but I don't like to trust my God to take care of some of my defects. And I'm just saying this because of what I'm dealing with right now. I want to fix them myself. I want to redeem myself. Because then because I'm that little boy still. So yeah, the insanity of that from 19 to 31, just repeating the same stuff. It was a lot of like drug maintenance programs, and I'd be, I'm not drinking, but I'm on methadone, and then I'd start drinking again, and then that would lead to like another drug, I'll smoke crack or whatever. And then it all became too much manageable, and I'd just be like, all right, I'm better off with just the heroin. Like one thing, this is manageable. This is totally manageable. And that was like the cycle. And I was always looking for the right concoction too. I remember like I'd be drinking and I'd have the jitters, and I'd have to take benzos in the morning just to like get to work and be okay. And then I'd take too many and I need something to come up. And then I'd start drinking after work, and it was just like I was always trying to find the right concoction to get me back to that place of being okay, like years after it just did not work anymore. So for me, that's like, that's the mental part. Like my disease, it's a mental, physical, spiritual, and mental thing. It really is. The other thing I'll say about the spiritual thing, and this is just like me, I'm kind of out there sometimes, but like I realize having kids today, like the spiritual connection I have with them, I believe this is like a spiritual malady, and so I'm interested in moving forward and like doing some research as far as like adoption when a mother and child, that psychic connection is broke right from the beginning. Because I think we all have psychic wounds that we carry that we can't pinpoint, that we don't know about. I feel like I kind of have pinpointed mine, but I feel like my brother died of a heroin overdose. I found him a couple months back, and he never got this, like never. And the part in here about he went to jail, like the last time was his third time, and I remember the first time he come out, and I had just started getting recovery, and he had said to me, I had so much time to think, like, I know what I need to do, like, no, you don't understand how much thinking you do in there, like, I get it, like, he knew all the mental springs and all that stuff, and he was going to do it right this time, and then I had to separate myself from that point, and just watch the pattern over and over, and he didn't get it, and I feel like he had, one of those, I learned he was a failure to thrive baby, which is called infant suicide. And you can't remember that. That's like a spiritual scar that you don't remember. And we're like, it helps me to have compassion with other people, because it's like, what kind of spiritual scar that they aren't aware of are they trying to treat? But I also know that once I pick this stuff up, like having come here and listen to you guys, that I can't stop. And I'm going to try to convince myself of some way of making it work. And for me, maybe a little different too, I was under no illusion anymore that it was going to be any different. I wasn't even telling myself that lie anymore. For me, it was more to control the way I felt in some little bitty way. Like, I'm going to change the way I feel. I know it's going to be a million times worse. But I want control over this right now, because I felt out of control my whole entire life. So even like having that, for a while I convinced myself, and then I couldn't convince myself anymore. But it was just about having that little illusion of control. Like, I'm going to change the way I feel, at least for a second, and then I'll be back to the misery. I don't care. And it's going to be worse. I don't care. I've been doing this for so long. I'm so used to it. I can't die. I was going to go insane. I didn't have the guts to kill myself. So then I get here, and I see this thing working for people, and I learn that it's a spiritual program. You guys have God, and I'm like, now I'm really screwed. Like, this is like, I may as well just put a gun in my mouth now, because that same chaotic, sick family forced me to go to church every Sunday, and controlled me with this fear of a punishing God. and said one thing and acted a different way, and hid the truth, and constantly lied. This was the hardest part about my brother's death, is that I have 8 other people with a completely different reality than what I have. And I go back into that environment here. He was doing so good, and he's got. We're in his room, and they're like reminiscing. He was a stargazer, and he had a telescope in the woods. I'm like, you can't see through trees. I'm thinking this. I'm like, he looked into people's houses with that, and then he'd rob them. Like, what do you think this box of like Louis Vuitton wallets and prescription glasses are? Like, he doesn't have a prescription for glasses. He saw like Ray-Ban on him, and he thought he could sell them. So I have this like complete different reality, and so that's like a struggle, but I still have to have, it's a real balancing act. I have to have that compassion. I have to like move in and out as gracefully as possible without getting really sick. My son is just as sensitive as I am, so I'm really cautious about bringing him around. And anyway, I got sidetracked there, but so I come here in this family, that doesn't live in truth, preaches one thing and acts another way, and I keep going blank. They forced me to go to church every week, and that's how I learned about God. He was going to punish me. And that's how I learned I was, I'm either good I'm good and I'm going to be rewarded, or I'm bad and I'm going to be punished. Like, that's a paradigm I'm still trying to break. A lot of these things, I have to work on. So I get here and I'm like, you know what? I'm screwed. This isn't for me. But I was so desperate. I had that gift of desperation. It also says in here, about like having absolutely nothing left. Now I have a son who's 3 months old, who I've just detoxed off heroin. I couldn't sleep, so I would allow my wife to sleep and just take care of him the best that I could. He's 3 months old now, and I'm here, and I'm sitting in my driveway, and I'm like, I can't. Like, I gotta spare these people. I'm in the self-pity. Like, I have a life insurance policy. They're better off with $250 than they are with me, like, making their lives miserable. And I was at the Way Out. That was my home group at the time, and there's some good recovery there, and it's a big book meeting, not the same format as here. But I saw people recovering, and what kept me around was people telling the truth for the first time. Like, not hearing the words and then seeing different reactions. I was hearing the words and seeing that the actions matched, and I was like, holy crap. And they were talking about God, and they were telling me, believe that I believe, and all this stuff, and I still didn't.